The difficulty that the committee may be having at this point is some of what I tried to signal originally. Your testimony is arguably contrary to the impression that has been given by a number of other witnesses who would be deemed credible. And honorable people can differ. There's no issue there. But it sounds practically counterintuitive to, and that's why I asked the question, what are these numbers, you know? But the representation that things are running near optimally is what is problematic from my perspective. And I can be rather dispassionate about my assessment of this in terms of what does and does not make sense to me, irrespective of the particulars. And so that's kind of what's creating a little bit of
Senator, I can understand that.
You know,
you've listened to several hours of testimony. We had no advance notice of what that would be,
no,
but we anticipated.
Aside from that, not everyone here has drawn the same kind of conclusions, but everyone feels an obligation to be reasonably educated and or informed and to try to connect with those on the basis of the veracity of their representations. And that's why I'm kind of pushing to try to make sure that I understand the disposition of the court as being presented by you, partly because, you know, one has a sense when one is being led in a particular direction and it just feels contrary to what's reasonable. If nothing else, if you don't take away anything else from this conversation, you might appreciate the fact that such a viewpoint isn't going over very well. And the bottom line for me in that regard, Madam Chair, before I have to take my exit, is it has implications for a lack of resolve in terms of being willing to settle the matter before us. I'm not inclined to get in the middle of negotiations. That's not my objective. That's not my game. That's not what I'm trying to do. But it does give me some indication of what the commitment of the courts are. Yours, sir. Yours, sir. To resolve this issue. And that's ultimately what I think is hopeful, without saying what the resolution in specific terms has to be. But your posture seems to not give a lot of confidence that that's where you're driving. Because if everything's okay, why deal with it?
Sir, may I respond?
Sure. But I just wanted to kind of unpack that for you so you have a clear sense of where I am.
The only thing I would add, Senator, is that during the entire strike, I've gotten a briefing between 9 and 9:30 at noon and in the afternoon every single day.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to every one of my supervising judges, and I've had meeting after meeting with all of executive staff. And so I'm following on a day-to-day basis exactly what's going on.
Right.
Snapshots show a picture at one time of one thing. And I'm trying to give you an overview that is not rosy, and it's not dramatic, and it is not good or bad. It is exactly what I perceive.
This matter before us is of the highest importance. And I say that as I start because an analogy has come to mind that I hope you'll give me an instant to develop and not dismiss out of hand, because it could be seen as frivolous. And I don't mean it to be, or I don't mean the analogy to imply that the situation before us is frivolous.
As long as it's illustrative, we can work with it.
I think you'll be the judge. The analogy is the freeway. We ride every day. We roar along, Senator, at 15 miles an hour. We call that good. We look at a court system that is overloaded with cases. The demands and the expectations of the public are extraordinary. We'd like to be running at 70 miles an hour, but there is systemic issues that face the court every day. See where I'm going?
Yep.
Okay. So we're on the 405. All of a sudden, we find that the Department of Roads, Caltrans, has closed one of the lanes. Okay? Did we know it was coming? Yeah, we saw the sign flashing. Okay? Did we think the strike was coming? We thought, yeah, it could be. But, we've been through this before. What happens when the lane is cut down? Is it normal operation, sir? That's, I think, your point. Absolutely not. Okay? So the first morning we're going to work, we're an hour late. Okay? First morning of the strike, I don't remember the number precisely, but 30 interpreters out of 300 show up. Was that difficult? Absolutely. Was it difficult to get around the lane closure? Absolutely. But what did we do after that? We started to compensate, sir. We didn't sit by and sit on our hands. The first day was very bad. The first couple days were very bad. Okay? But that number of 30, and let's call it the miles that the freeway lane is closed, has now decreased. In fact, last week, sir, we had 100 interpreters on the job. So we're moving toward a solution. How did we compensate in the court? Let me tell you, okay? We weren't real big on language line, a service that allows you to use the telephone. We had sufficient interpreters every day. Okay?
Certified interpreters?
They were available, certified interpreters every day.
All 100 were certified.
It's hard
Because
for
again,
me,
remember,
it's hard
as I
for me to
spoke
speak,
earlier,
Senator, if you can
We're
interrupt
not only interested, like with the analogy of the
me.
teacher.
Would you rather me stop and you answer
Well, when a
answer your
senator
question?
speaks, quite frankly, I don't know if you're not used to being in a Senate hearing, but when the chair of the committee
Excuse me,
speaks-
Senator, do not
Excuse
speak to
me.
my staff that way.
Excuse me, I am presiding. I'm the presiding officer in this hearing.
I'm-
And we're invited
So when-
guests, Senator.
Sergeant,
Well, wait a minute.
I'll
excuse me, Senator, let me just say.
I just said
So
it's hard for me
the
to
analogy
answer.
that I made earlier when I asked about teachers was, in this era of civil rights and educational rights, we're no longer looking for teachers. We're looking for credentialed teachers. We are also looking at this time in the courtroom, not just for interpreters, but for certified interpreters. The bar has been raised, especially as we've seen the demographics of California change, as members of the legislature have changed to reflect the fastest growing, populations and having a minority-majority state. We are looking at these questions of language access. So the 100 interpreters get you down 75% from what you normally rely upon, all certified.
70% of all of the interpreters we have in the LA Superior Court are certified. 30% are not. We are absolutely committed to using certified interpreters. We understand how important they are. We understand how difficult the work is. We understand how difficult the test is. We have no disagreement over that. The point I was trying to make, Senator, is that in the course of the strike, and remember we are in its 6th week. It was interesting to hear some of the testimony. It sounded like we've been doing this for a year about continuances. We're in the 6th week and this is the beginning of it. Okay? But sir, we've compensated. We've triaged our cases. We've used alternate services like language line. We're very actively this week exploring other alternatives like video conferencing. Just like anybody compensates when there is a problem, we have compensated, sir. We're going to continue to compensate. Things are going to get better in the LA Superior Court as the weeks go on. How's that? Okay? Because we'll find other alternatives than the way we're doing our work right now. The number of interpreters has moved from 30, it's to 100. I suspect it's going to be higher next week, and we'll have more interpreters. That's how we're compensating. I know I'm sounding like I'm getting wound up about it, but I didn't want your question to go missed as if we were sitting and we were not interested in finding solutions. Thank you.